this video is going to be a little bit more personal for me in that for those of you who, I guess, watch me on Twitter and do other stuff, I recently had a pretty, let's just say, miserable couple of weeks when I found out that my grandma had inoperable brain cancer. And then 2 days after we found out that, my grandpa passed away. And then we had to inform my grandma, who has brain cancer, that her husband passed away. And with the knowledge that she might not even understand the fact that her husband passed away. So it's been rough. And we've been dealing with the hospital situation because of COVID. And it's been a situation in which me getting to see her, so there was an issue about surgery and whether or not they should have surgery. And what they said to us was that if we were to operate on her, because of where the tumors are, that it's going to basically come back. So they can't remove it all because of where it is, and so because they can't remove it all, it's going to grow back. And so they said if they operate on her, she'll get maybe a year to 18 months. And that's if she survives the surgery itself, which could cause stroke and among other things, and just kill her when they do the surgery. So then they said if they don't do anything, she'll get 2 to 6 months. So we opted not to have surgery. But now we're in this place where part of the issue is because of the backlog with the hospitals, because of COVID and all this, we're in this situation where she's under 24 supervision at the hospital and they're deciding whether or not she can go home for a little bit, where she'll be with a public support worker, and then eventually maybe get to go to hospice, where she will eventually die. And I can't go to see her at the hospital. I mean, I probably can, but it's just fucked up with scheduling, and the fact that I live an hour away, and the fact that in order to get in, you have to message ahead saying you want to go, and then they will contact you randomly and then give you a small window for you to go in and see her. So given the fact that I'm an hour away, I'm kind of fucked in that regards to go and see her. And I understand why the hospital is doing that. Part of that is because of the overwhelmingness of the hospital being short-staffed in terms of people being overwhelmed with having to deal with COVID. But you also have the fact that there's going to be some resignations because of vaccine refusal for some nurses. And you have the fact that there's a population in this country that still refuses to get vaccinated, and therefore the virus is still having people take up space and nurse time in the hospital, making it pretty much impossible to see my dying grandmother. So this piece that we're going to watch happens to be outside of the hospital where my grandma is currently staying. So it's going to be a bit personal. But we're going to listen to a new Rebel employee outside of Cambridge Memorial Hospital in Ontario talking to nurses who refuse to get vaccinated. So, or people in support of nurses who refuse to get vaccinated. I can't guarantee that the people in the video are themselves nurses. Yeah, pretty depressing note, but but this is and thank you, Core, for saying that. The thing is, I'm kind of, the emotional toll has already sort of passed. The stress right now is just the fact of dealing with family members, and especially my dad and my aunts, who this is really hard on them, and trying to sort out all the finances and other shit when your mom and dad are dying or dead is not fun, and they're under a lot of stress. And so I feel for them, but I'm lucky in the sense that my grandpa was in mid-90s, was old as hell. And so I got a long life with them, and I can be happy for that. And it's also, I've said on the show before that for the past 4 years, he's been pretty much functionally not there. He had a very bad pneumonia 4 years ago that basically scrambled his brain, So he's been pretty much gone for the past 4 years. So his dying, even though it was kind of abrupt, because nothing in particular killed him. He just was dead one day, as it happens. And it just so happened that he died right in the middle as we were figuring out all the stuff with grandma. But with grandma, I mean, like, the thing is, she's a lot younger, because I've also explained on chat, like, my grandpa, my my grandmother that I never knew died when my dad was 14. So my dad's mom died when he was 14 on Christmas Eve, which was pretty traumatic for him, as you can imagine, being a child growing up. But my grandpa met my grandmother at a sort of like a single parent sort of thing, and they fell in love and got married and lasted for the rest. But there's a significant age gap, so my grandma is like 78, even though he was in his mid 90s. But even 78 is pretty long, pretty long. So I'm glad that I've gotten this much life out of both of my grandparents. And so it doesn't, I mean, if I seem less like traumatic about it and sobbing on stream, it's because, I've come to terms with it. Thanks for sharing that. It's good to talk about it when you can. Dealing with inadequate healthcare can be so alienating. Yeah, I mean, this situation, it's sad because, like, my aunts took it really hard, especially because when they were trying to see her initially, it was even hard for them to get in. The one thing that I can say that was really, really, really nice of the hospital was when we found out that Grandpa died, they allowed both my dad and his two sisters to go in and tell Grandma, which technically violated their policy. I don't know, but I guess, like, it was a rare circumstance, So they let the three of them go in there and tell her that he died, and so that was nice. But there was a moment where my aunts, well, at least I heard this from the grapevine, were upset with the fact of, like, because of the COVID stuff, that they couldn't get to see Grandma. And, like, the one thing I could say that my dad's handling it really well, and was just like, look, it's not the hospital. It's the assholes who refuse to get vaccinated that are the problem. And I 100% agree with my dad on this point, It's like, I fully understand. I don't want to be responsible if I go to see my dying grandma to spread a fucking disease throughout the hospital and kill other people's grandmas, And so it is what it is. But that's my thoughts on it. Like, I don't think it's the hospital's fault. It's the assholes in the world that are promoted by these assholes to fuck up our hospitals right now. So, and I guess with all of that, here we go.
Dakota Christensen for Rebel News.
I will also say, I don't know who Dakota Christensen is. I did not know that they hired someone new again, but here you go. Dakota Christensen, another one of their super young male reporters that they've been hiring lately.
In Cambridge, Ontario. I'm currently standing in front of the Cambridge Memorial Hospital, where a group behind me of protesters, a lot of whom are staff working at the hospital, frontline nurses.
Every fucking time with the Nuremberg Code thing. Oh my god.
Do you think they're getting paid, or are these like tryouts? Like the intern reporters? That would be hilarious.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah, it's a fresh face. This guy seems like straight out of college.
They
type,
all look so young. Even, what was the one dude from Alberta? Fizzard?
Oh my god, I forgot about that one.
Sydney Fizzard. Yeah.
I've completely blanked that person out of my mind. I don't remember them at all.
I mean, K2's pretty young too. There's still, all of them are young. Mocha, Lincoln J.
You're making me feel old with these reporters, Ezra. Stop it.
Yeah. Jesus.
And nurse practitioners, other hospital staff have gathered to protest against the vaccine mandate that is being implemented by the hospital as ordered by the provincial Ontario government.
The nice thing I can say is that they're small crowds.
Have been let go of their jobs.
Yeah,
they've been placed on an unpaid
leave. Yeah, that's probably all they have in that shot. Like, that's all the people there. There's rarely more than a couple dozen, if on a good day.
And they don't seem too disruptive, which is nice. Like I've seen some of the ones in like Vancouver or Toronto, or even I think in Calgary, there've been some like pretty disruptive protests. This one looks like they're just standing across the street, and in that regards, fine. Like I know the hospital, so the parking lot entrance is like right over here, so they're kind of out of the way from the entrance. So like, cool.
Yeah, it's gonna say the ones we had here were like the biggest one was very disruptive, and then even after that, like the more moderate to smaller size ones, they've stuck pretty close to like the bus stop. So it's like if you're on the bus and you got like deal with these idiots, you're not gonna be happy, obviously.
Yeah, this is
Apparently,
also
there was another, just on the note of anti-mask rallies, there was another one in Victoria Park today that was loud enough for my friend to hear from their apartment, like more than 5 blocks away.
Jesus. I mean, they probably because they had the sound equipment, but I'm hoping it wasn't as well attended as it was the previous weekend with Chris Sky. I know because they were planning. I think part of it today was they were planning a caravan to leave London and go to Windsor. But I didn't follow it
That
today
sounds
to know
right.
how well it went.
Yeah, Windsor was like a big one. Like even had some people from my end of the woods that went to that. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, you were telling me before. We don't have to say where you came from, but like you were telling me
No,
before,
yeah.
there was people from your neck of the woods that came to the London one last weekend.
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
It's only like maybe like 3, like under like 5 or less people usually go. It's like the diehards basically, but like even then, like just having someone drive out that many hours out just for that is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Yep. But I mean that also tells you that they can't get enough critical mass by just having the people in the local area do the protest. You know what I mean?
Oh no,
They have to drag
definitely
them
not.
from
No.
like all ends of this fucking province.
Like I was kind of surprised even Chris came to. I'm surprised the coach even came to my neck of the woods. It's like he was apparently like advertised. Like you remember the time he was advertised before. Like that was last November or November. Yeah, last November I think it was, and like that fell through pretty quick.
and I agree, Corten. A lot of the medical chiefs have not been the greatest. I mean, I know ours. Ours just is hit or miss. Like sometimes he'll do something good. Excuse me, I got like burps all of a sudden. Sometimes he'll do some things that are good. Other times he won't. Chris Mackey or whatever his name is. But I feel like his takes on Twitter have been terrible throughout this whole pandemic.
I was gonna say it's
Policy-wise
like
is a bit iffy, but
yeah, it's not the worst, not the best. Obviously, better would be preferable.
Yeah. Yes.
And if they continue to refuse to provide proof of vaccination against COVID-19, they will face termination. Now, I'm here today to speak to them, to hear their side of the story.
No.
But also,
I mean, it's also just in terms of like, my grandma, if everything the doctor says is correct, has 2 to 6 months to live. Okay? I don't want her to die of COVID still. I mean, dying of brain cancer is enough. But like having like a pneumonia, lung infection, and like wheezing herself to death is
Pulmonary,
still not preferable.
death from some sort. Death from anything pulmonary is just shit.
Like it's just amazing to me of just like the degree of selfishness of like how dare they let me go when I could be a potential hazard to others. And we're going to hear some shit here, I think, of the same people who are going to be like, well, like, why do you care if I'm vaccinated if you're vaccinated? Yes, my grandma is vaccinated. But guess what? Colin Powell was vaccinated. Colin Powell still died because even if you're vaccinated, if you're dying of cancer, your immune system is shit. Okay?
So through infections. That's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, but that's a lot of people, like breakthrough infections are happening, but the severity of the symptoms of those breakthrough infections are moderated by the vaccine. But the thing is, they're also moderated by like other like comorbidities, and they like to think that the comorbidities mean that they're like responsible, not COVID. But it's like my grandma is going to take the 2 to 6 months to go. If you introduce the virus, it's going to change that dynamic, right? Like it's not the comorbidity's fault. It's the fuck that she got infected with this virus, and I'd rather she doesn't. So please, go away. You know, like it's not that fucking hard to understand. And I'm not the nurse. You're apparently the supposed nurse. If any of these people actually are nurses, you know.
to get their input as to why they're willing to make this sacrifice, to put their livelihoods, their careers on the line,
Sacrifice.
rather
Yeah.
than simply comply with this vaccine mandate. All right, can you tell me why you're out here today?
I support the cause, yeah.
And what is this cause?
Well, there's this idea going around that pandemic is still because
He's
of
still wearing a
unvax.
mask.
I think
Come on,
that's
dude.
very-
You're in the wrong crowd.
Yeah. I mean, but this is the thing. It's like it's amazing to me, like all the different people who want to compartmentalize certain aspects of this. So it's like for him, I guess like masks are totally cool, but I don't want any of those foreign substances being stuck into me. You know, that kind of
I
shit.
don't. Yeah. He's kind of like the unicorn amongst these rare types of
Yeah.
like saying it's like I consider the virus to be a thing, but like I still reject the vaccine. And it's
Yeah.
like I cool, but no,
Yeah.
I'm confused.
No, we have met a few of these before at some of the protests that they've covered. So,
Oh yeah, no, I don't disagree. They're out there, but again, like they're rare among this rare subgroup. So
yes.
yeah,
Calling them the unicorns, I think, was a good way of putting it.
very misconstrued. It's not the case.
And why do you say that?
Well, if you take a look around the world, let's go to the UK, for example. 80%
oh god, no.
of the people that are hospitalized in the UK due to COVID, they're all vaccinated, right?
Oh god, no.
I could not verify this statistic. I tried to look it up. I remember there was some early reporting when they initiated their like current wave, and like let's be honest, their current wave is destroying the UK right now. It looks like they've plateaued, almost like America did on their first wave, is what UK is doing for this fourth wave. They're not doing great. That being said, earlier on, when they started having that wave, it was mostly vaccinated people who were getting infected. But there were people who had one dose, and it was also when the Delta variant was just starting to come in. And so the thing is, if you have like 80% of your population vaccinated, it could be that the most people who are infected or get like selected as a case are going to be people who got the vaccine, because they're the only route this virus might have, right? Although it is true now, over time, that the unvaccinated people are dying because they're getting this thing. So get vaccinated. Even
So yeah, okay, yeah, just a quick one. Looking at just kind of like the stats from world data or our world in data, it was percentage of the population of the UK fully vaccinated is 67.7%. So that's still pretty low.
Yeah.
As far as like having herd immunity against it. So that's probably why they're getting wrecked.
I mean, they have
They're
at least
factoring
one
that
dose,
in.
73.8, and fully vaccinated, 67.7. And you can
Yeah.
see here, like, new cases. Look at that wave. Holy shit. Like, they're getting hit.
Like, look at it, like even just look between Ontario and Alberta. It's like the night and day difference of the vaccine uptake between the two, and the data shows that if you don't have the vaccine bolstering your defenses, you're going to get ruined.
Yeah. Good to finally see that our deaths are starting to trend down. So. In Canada, generally.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. That's yeah.
I mean, but again, like I have to say, like we're at least lucky in terms of our vaccinations in this country. We're one of the better countries in terms of our vaccinations. 73.5 fully vaccinated, 78% one dose.
Yeah. The other problem still was obviously again the world vaccines, but that's a bigger challenge, obviously, and yeah, get into that deeper topic. So yeah. No. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. But it's like, it's amazing just like these random statistics that these people like throw out there when it's like, I'm sorry, bud. It's the thing is like, you could throw out that number that like, yes, most of the people being, or I don't even think he's right in terms, because I think he said hospitalized, but it could be the case that people with cases vaccinated are more likely to get the thing, but that's because there's more people vaccinated fully.
Yeah.
I mean, 63% of the population. It could just happen that more people who are vaccinated are going to become a case, but the hospitalizations and deaths are in the unvaccinated.
That's part of the other thing too. A lot of the data Rebel avoids that too. It's like, yeah, sure, the vaccines are vaccinated or get infected, but it's like you don't look at like what the difference between the people getting vaccinated versus the people unvaccinated and what their death tolls and or hospitalizations are. It shows the unvaccinated are the biggest burden right now and the biggest death toll.
Yeah.
So what does that say about, the situation? And we're not here to kind of like start a war against the vaccinated and the unvaxxed. If you're vaccinated, you should be here too, because this is not just about
The unvaccinated are doing
being
that
vaccinated
enough.
or unvaccinated. This is about, freedoms.
I would like
I love that. It's
Yeah.
not about vaccinated and unvaccinated. It's
freedoms,
about freedom.
yeah.
And it's like,
How about like it's kind of like how you mentioned too? It's like, how about the freedom to like not die of freaking virus that is as a vaccine for it?
I had some like example before that was like a little bit more, put it like a little bit more explicit, where it's like, say if like when we talked, just like huge goblets of spit like fly out of our mouths, and it's like they would be like, I should be allowed to scream in front of people, and everyone's getting hit with the spit, because like spitting directly on someone's like, that's clearly assault, don't spit on people, right? But
Yeah,
it's like,
considering at this point in time, yeah.
but like particles shooting out of your mouth that are imperceptible to us and having them like assault me with a disease is, just because we can't see it, like spit is the same thing as aerosolization. The only difference is enough of it has accumulated that you can see a hunk of it,
Yeah. This kind of goes back somewhat to the bias discussion earlier, but like it's a bit, obviously it's not racial bias too, but it's like this is kind of like a bias of understanding how this science or this fact of life works.
I think they've had comments before of like whenever they have Patrick Moore from Greenpeace on
No.
the Rebel, they always talk about like how like, oh, scientists think these things exist, but you can't even see them. So like, do they really exist? Yeah, no, it's incredible.
God, Patrick Moore, that was, oh my god.
Yeah. Don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah.
to speak on also on behalf of the group that we have here that is actually from Cambridge Memorial Hospital. And I would like to say that we are concerned healthcare workers who understand the dire circumstances of our healthcare system, and our hospitals have functioned at their capacities prior to COVID, and the pandemic just put them in a deep hole. The pandemic has only emphasized the problem of gaining access to healthcare for people across Canada, and hospitals have become the only point of healthcare for everybody across Canada and in our communities, because people are not being seen by their family doctors. So their only point of care are the hospitals.
I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder why.
But like, I don't.
Like, sorry.
Well, I was just to say, like, I don't know that that's true either. Like, I've been able to see my family doctor, or not me personally. I think my wife has though, or at least like not like physically seen our family doctor, but we can at least do like video conference them or like phone call with them.
Yeah, like the telehealth is an option too. Like that's probably the most preferred option, because if you're just going for like basic diagnosis, then it's like that's kind of like a pre-diagnosis you could get checked, and it's like if there's anything else the doctor might want to like see in person, then you could do that arrangement. And like, yeah, it's yeah, we could get in a discussion like how like family doctors should have the right to be avoiding of this pandemic in their own respects too. So it's like
I mean, it's the same thing with like, I mean, I guess like I grant that we're going to need some point of contact with humans, because we are going to need to deal with the fact that my grandma has cancer. Like that's she's going to have to come into contact with health people eventually, right? But it's the point of like, I'm still understanding of the fact of like, I want to expose the nurses whose job it is to be there to the best of my abilities, like, I don't know.
Sort of going back on like sort of kicking off with that too, it's like you should also have the ability and like have the right to like make sure that the nurses are doing their due diligence in preventing a spread of an infectious disease by vaccinating.
Yeah. No, exactly, right? I mean, because that would be the one thing. It would be one thing if we had an entire population that was fully vaccinated. Then maybe some of these restrictions would lift, wouldn't they? Yeah, that's right. Also, I'm also pissed off.
Yeah. one angle I've seen, and I've made it too. It's like the argument can be made that the vaccinations are a form of PPE. It could be more applied to like the hospitals, obviously, but I can imagine, depending on like where you are in the province or even in the world, that the vaccines will be even an equal amount of a form of PPE for any individual worker.
Yeah, Two Car says, I think all restrictions will lift after kids become eligible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I agree there.
And as soon as they're eligible, well, at least my one kid for sure. I still think my youngest is not going to be of age, because I think it's what 5 to 12 is what they're going to lower to.
4 or 5. Yeah, 4 or 5. I think was the age we're looking at.
Jeez.
Depends. I think it depends what vaccine, but the general is 5 and up.
No, I'm still gonna have to wait. at least in terms of my daughter's age, she will be going to kindergarten in September. But will not be vaccinated till second kindergarten. My son though can get vaccinated right away though, and we will be getting him vaccinated. So
they had the TB shot back, or that I don't remember. Yeah, oh, maybe that's. I can say that. Yeah, looking at the chat. Sorry.
Daycare workers have to get not tuberculosis shots, but at least tuberculosis tested. I had basically what I'm saying is I used to work in daycares in my undergraduate when I was a research assistant. I did developmental psychology and worked in a childhood development lab and had to do research in daycares. And I had to show my vaccine passport even back then. I also had to do a police check and like other stuff. So
your freedoms were impeded on.
Yeah. And Hildebeest goes, I can still
your freedoms got peed on?
Impeded. Sorry.
No, the daycare directly peed on my freedoms. Hildebeest said, I can still see, phone my doctor, and I live in Alberta. That could be just a problem with Alberta, though, but like I'm glad you can still see your doctor. Oh, God. Pfizer has formally applied. I have not heard of Moderna. Yeah, no, I know the Pfizer one. Yeah. And I'm glad with all the mixing and matching, because like I was mixed and matched with Pfizer and Moderna. That's how I've been vaccinated. But what happened to good old-fashioned flagellant movements during plagues? Let's bring that back. The vapors?
Yeesh.
Oh my God, Simone. Nobody cares. Nobody cares, Simone.
We all care.
Yeah.
Are the
We care so much about
departments that are being overflown with people.
Oh.
We want to work and we want to serve our community, and we have been working throughout the entire pandemic and have safely cared for our patients, our families.
What is this,
friends,
like reading
and
off a script,
our
too?
right to
My
choose
God.
whether we consent to an experimental drug.
Is she representing
That
the
does not
frontline
hinder the
nurses?
safety
I
of
think
our
she might be,
patients.
like the Christine Nagel one.
Care from unvaccinated
Oh
healthcare
God. Okay,
workers
so I'm gonna make a
is
bet.
no more
One.
of
There's
a
at least
risk than
5 of them
receiving
that
care
are
from
homeopathics
vaccinated
in there,
healthcare
or
workers.
We've all
homeopaths.
seen
Oh,
what's
yeah.
going on.
Well, I know
And
we once went through Kristen Nagel's Instagram when she first came out, after she was when she was forced to resign after the she went to Washington during January 6th.
Oh, how good was that?
It was just amazing that like that nurse happened to come from the city. But then it was like we looked at her Instagram and she had tons of posts. Most of her posts were all about like clean eating and how to like cleanse your chakras, and that was pretty much
Okay,
it.
yeah, all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
And she'd probably be into the fluoride stuff or anti-fluoride stuff.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like amazing how much the health community has like merged with this shit.
Yeah, or best Joel. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Nurses need a vaccine against MLMs for sure. Yes, correct.
vaccines have never been mandatory in Canada, so
bullshit.
It's kind of nefarious that they are now.
Nefarious.
Also,
okay.
There's been some.
But again, like technically, they're not mandatory in Canada right now. Like, there's an aspect of here which she's correct in that, like, they've never been. It's not like the government has forced a vaccine into everyone, just universally, no matter what. Instead, they have it so that it's like, well, if you want access to this, you need to show that you've been vaccinated. And so you still have the choice, but it doesn't mean it's a national, excuse me, it doesn't mean it's a national policy. It still isn't there yet.
Yeah, it's kind of Canadian mandates. It's like, please do this, otherwise we'll look frowningly upon you,
Right.
or look down upon you.
Very extreme reactions, and it is experimental.
Extreme reactions?
So,
Extreme!
Oh my god, this experimental thing, oh my god,
We-
fucking pisses me off.
We talked about this on the podcast too, because like Ezra and Menzies used to call it experimental, and yet even though it's past the Pfizer like full approval, they still call it experimental.
Yeah, just
So it's like
okay, so
and whenever
it's
they
experimental.
called it
Okay,
experimental in the past, they always referred to the fact that it has not been FDA approved. Now they never talk
No,
about the
it's-
FDA
yeah.
approval, but they still call it experimental.
yeah, it's like no, it's they're the thing is, like, I know what they're doing is like, or like as far as like Rebels doing is that they're calling it experimental in the sense that it's like it hasn't passed long-term efficacy or safety data. It's like there's no real long-term for vaccines tends to be like in the order of like a year or so, like not really long. And if you're going to have an effect from it, it's going to be within the first couple of months,
Two Cars
if not for a few minutes. Yeah.
Two Cars says the experiment never
Microchips
ends.
will collate data forever.
Microchips will collate data forever. I mean, it's not even that it's about believing their own bullshit. It's clear that they're emotionally invested in this, not actually invested in this, right? Which is why it's like the arguments don't matter to them. They were going to side against the vaccines no matter what.
It's been anti-vaccine rhetoric from like day one.
Yeah. Yep.
Give it a few months. Someone's like they've already. Oh, sorry.
No, go.
They've already like mentioned it's like they're gonna be like, oh, it's gonna cause autism. It's gonna have a spike in autism. If you haven't seen it in group chats like that, like it's there already. It's still there. Like that whole autism bullshit. It's still there, and it's just. I'm gonna make it like a side bet. It's gonna be a thing that's gonna pop up more in a year.
Well, there's like weird people too. Like it's weird how much they try to like set arbitrary dates in the future, but it's far enough in the future that like all of this is probably going to go away by then once you get people vaccinated. So they're like, I saw somebody trying to come out there being like, in 5 years, inflammation is going to skyrocket and like more people are going to die from the vaccines than from COVID. But it's like 5 years out. So it's like, how are like, and here's the thing is it's bullshit. There's no reason to think that that's the case. They're just pulling shit out of their ass, right?
Oh yeah, I know.
I am willing to bet that Ezra and other conservatives have railed against the regulatory burden being too excessive against pharmaceutical companies. Now that they got their way on cutting down the regulatory period, it's untested. I mean, well, that's the thing. Like, there's so much about this that is stupid. Like, for one, like, they have, on many instances, been against things like health ban or like any health regulations, and like they won't say this, but like they're against the regulatory state, like period. And now they're like, it can never be regulated enough. Like you need to regulate it to death before you allow us to take something.
The script whenever, yeah, they'll flip the script whenever they want it to be suitable to them.
Because they don't have to be consistent. All they care about is getting their way and owning the libs.
Aggrievement grifting.
Yeah.
Is still in human trials on a mass scale. Is why we're all out here today.
Now, do you yourself work at the hospital? Do you know people who work at the hospital?
I don't work at this specific hospital, but I do work within the area.
Shocking.
What is it?
That's the thing. Is like so far we haven't heard from any nurses. That one person might have been a nurse, but I didn't catch it. But she was reading a script. But so far, no nurses.
That you do. What is your job?
I'm a PSW.
You're a PSW.
I mean, so here's the other thing. This still annoys me because say my grandma gets let out and gets to have a PSW work with her.
Yeah, you got to deal with this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Rather, she has to. Sorry.
Well, I'm hoping that there's regulations that force her to be vaccinated as a PSW as well. Because go fuck yourself if you think you're getting around like that.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering too. It's like if there would be a movement to like make sure like anyone that wants to that they only have people that have been vaccinated. Like it's these anti-vaccine types are forcing their hand in this regard. So like if that ever gains momentum.
And have you lost your job because of this mandate?
So I'm off on medical leave right now. but I will.
But you will.
They're on medical leave, so good.
And so
Yeah,
do you know
sure.
anyone here who works at the hospital? Do you have any connections with anyone here?
My mom, actually, she's a nurse. She recently got fired for
Good.
not being vaccinated.
Good.
And that's...
And he's still wearing a
she's been
mask.
working
Well,
there over
at least he's
10
doing
years,
that.
you know? And just to let her go like that, what is that?
I mean, like, she's been working there for 10 years and to just let her go like that. It's like, it wasn't just like that. It's because we're in a global pandemic and she refused to abide by the medical consensus.
Yeah, I wonder what the big
Yeah.
issue of the day was.
It's like 10 years, but then on the 10th year, she decided to be anti-vaccine. Well, like, I'm sorry. She's a nurse. She should know fucking better. Maybe they're like, oh my god, we hired her for 10 years and she's an anti-vaxxer? Maybe we should have known better from the start.
That.
And so do you, you yourself have personal connections with people who work at the hospital?
Yes, I do. Actually, my mom's was a nurse here at CMH.
Oh, was.
But actually got let go because of all of this.
Good.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
bye.
And so...
But I'm also curious, like, why isn't she out here then? You know? Like, I don't know. There's something weird about that.
That's, yeah, exactly. It's like, put your money where your mouth is. Like, come on.
What does that mean for you and your family now that your mom is now out of a job?
See, it's very complicated now because now we're down to one income in a family of 6 people. So, I mean, for us personally, we're not down that bad, but for other people, I know it's hitting them so hard.
The COVID-19
Wait, in a family that big? What?
But it's like... I mean,
Cambridge.
like...
Fair enough, yeah.
Damn it. I mean, I spent most of my life in Cambridge, which is a sad reality, but...
Big families there, right?
It's very conservative. I guess I'll just put it that way. Very conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But there's an element in which I'm a labor activist. I'm very supportive of people. You know what? This would be the perfect opportunity to go, hey, maybe we need something that's called like a universal thing that people can have where they're not forced to work because we might want them to stay home if, for example, they can't find work. And, maybe something like that. I don't know. Like other people have called it like a universal basic income or like some kind of welfare policy.
I was gonna say too. It's like as much as I would like disagree with these types to like on the point of vaccines and stuff. Yeah, sure. Get paid to stay the hell home. I don't want to deal with you in the hospital with this kind of thing going on.
No, exactly. And it's like, yeah.
I do.
Just to finish my thought, like, I don't like the idea of like people losing their jobs and being able not to afford things for their family. But if you're putting other people at risk, like, I'm sorry, but like, that's how we have to deal with it right now, even though I wish we lived in a society where you could make that choice and not make it feel like a life-threatening choice. But anyways, go Via.
Just like kind of on that note, like the feds are talking about not letting them get EI if they get fired from not getting vaccinated, which I think is just such a stupid move that kind of gives them like some of the legitimacy of like that is discriminatory. Like that is like, and it's an austerity measure, and it's like a precedent for denying EI to certain groups of people. Like as much as I don't like as much as I can like barely force myself to care about like idiots just not getting vaccinated, it is still just like this just empowers them more too. Like it gives them like, one, they'll be more desperate. Two, they'll have to organize amongst themselves a lot more.
It gives them
like,
oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, like it gives them more motivation to be like openly against this sort of shit. And it's just so
it gives them their martyrdom.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say it gives them some kind of legitimate grievance. I guess like the one thing I'll say in terms of that, like I can maybe see that they're thinking that if they add a little bit more of a threat to it, it might like motivate them to actually get the vaccine, and then they don't lose the hospital staff that are necessary to like deal with the fact that we're having a global pandemic. Like I can sort of see like maybe some of the thinking going on here, but at the same extent, it's like I agree fully with you, and they shouldn't have done this. But, like, I don't. I'm just saying, like, I don't think the process in their mind is like, fuck these people, like we're just going after them. I think they're worried about the understaffing of hospitals by like mass resignations or something.
No, because they're talking about not getting like anybody who gets fired for not being vaccinated, like across the board,
Oh, well, in that case, go
not
fuck
just
yourself.
Yeah,
healthcare.
if they quit or let off or whatever, it's that's a bit of a broad sweeping thing for the EI topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, like it's just such a blatant like austerity measure because if they'd kept up with CERB, if they had kept up with all of these other things where it's like, oh yeah, I can't work because of COVID going on. Not being able to work because of COVID going on and you're not vaccinated should just like, I don't know, if everybody were able to kind of just afford to get the necessities of life, then this wouldn't be an issue at all, type of thing.
But that was like even at the
But
beginning of the
instead, we're making
pandemic.
it about like denying people government services. Like,
It frustrated me at the beginning of the pandemic that they didn't just have like a blanket, like anyone who works at a grocery store, we're doubling your wages or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that and I think like they implemented like a bonus for like a month. Like it was such a like stingy like thing to be like, thank you, here's like an extra bit of income for a month. It should have been like an extensive like bump in their pay since they're being forced to work when other people had the choice to stay home, you know?
yeah.
It was shit like that we could have done a lot better. That we fucked with this pandemic. But I do want to say I liked Core 10's point, which is that we should pay them while they're being re-educated. Correct.
Injections do not stop transmission. We all know that. It's proven. COVID-19 injections are also not stopped, nor are hospitalizations stopped. This has been evidenced by CDC and by Israel and by many other countries that are highly vaccinated.
Oh my god, Israel's always a thing.
Yeah, she's making the even vaccinated people get infected thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times are they dying?
Yeah, no, exactly. Who's the burden on the system right now is the question you need to ask. And even in Israel, it's the unvaccinated that are the burden.
Like even going back with that too, it's like a lot of these types didn't want all the lockdowns and all that that were implemented in the first place. That like people at the time was because we didn't have the vaccine. We've lowered the death rate now, but now the unvaccinated are the ones obviously being the burden.
I mean, like, even if you just think about it in terms of, like, if you have a population where most people are vaccinated, even though they can be infected, and you have a population where less people are vaccinated, then the people who are not vaccinated are definitely going to get the disease if they come into enough viral load. But the people who are vaccinated might not. But the thing is, it's like the more unvaccinated people you have in that population, the more, like, vaccinated people with a less effective vaccine or whatever are going to come in contact with the virus than if you're in a society where there's more vaccinations. So it's like they keep on bringing up this example just because of the mere fact that vaccinated people can get infected, when it's like, just do the math. If you had more vaccinated people, you would have less cases. Like, that's just how disease works.
Yeah.
I don't like...
And yeah, it's not, you're not even factoring in like the mutations that like Delta we have. It's like, yeah, it's going to render the vaccine less effective over time because that's just the nature of the game.
But they never talk in like, for them, it's always in the language of like all or none. So it's like it has to be 100% effective or it's like bullshit. And it's like, no, like 90% effective is better than 80% effective, which is better than 70% effective. Like, it's a mathematics.
How many times are you not wearing that seatbelt going down the 400?
Yeah.
I still see them though.
Yeah, Jesus. I think like this is our problem: is human beings did not evolve to be statistical thinkers, you know?
Yeah, definitely not.
Abolish math.
Yeah.
We're back to my consistent position.
No, I think we're actually making we need to be more mathematically literate. Sadly,
yeah, sorry, you're outnumbered here.
I don't think that'll work out.
We need more racist teachers to dress up as indigenous people and teach people Sokotoa,
Oh
right?
my god.
Oh god, no, not that. Oh please, no. I forgot about
Therefore,
that.
to
Now
say
I
that
know.
unvaccinated healthcare workers are at a risk to patient safety and their health, and to put us on leave of absence is incorrect. It is anti-science
No, it's
and
not.
is definitely not Canadian. Nursing and
God.
healthcare shortages have been an ongoing issue in the
Wasn't
It's
the
not
guy
Canadian.
who? Yeah, I'm wondering how many Canadians made vaccines, like invented vaccines, or like discovered. Like, oh god, like or no, Salk wasn't that was for penicillin.
Uh,
I'm messing up. Sorry.
Jonas Salk is the polio
Oh,
vaccine, but I don't think it was Canadian.
okay, no.
Banting was
penicillin.
insulin.
Insulin. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Oh my god, I'm too tired. Too frustrated with this.
It's just not like it's not like I love like when people's like it's not Canadian.
It's not patriotic enough.
It's like every single person who doesn't play hockey, we should just shoot them in the street for not being Canadian.
Wait, I was gonna say it's like it's not Canadian enough to provide healthcare for everybody, or like
She's-
majority of healthcare for everyone.
She's not wearing a toque right now. Executor. I want to see maple syrup dripping out of her pores, or she is not Canadian.
We need to start creating giant ice machines that cover our streets in ice so that we can hockey skate, not figure skate, hockey skate everywhere. And those ice machines need to be powered by good old clean burning Alberta oil.
And Rush should be playing 24/7. So if there's ever a moment when
good.
Rush is not playing, we should all just dissolve.
I was gonna say too. It's like make sure those ice makers are run by Can-Am engines.
Yeah. And the ice should be distributed by Canadarms. We just
And
it was made for space.
the
but that's what's
Zambonis that smooth off the ice.
Oh, definitely.
Bombardier.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
It's just not Canadian, you know.
Canadian healthcare system for a very long time. And firing healthcare workers now when they're needed most is nonsensical. And
I mean,
Not
like
the unvaccinated
but
one.
you would like by saying that when they're needed most, you're implying that there's a real pandemic occurring right now. That's actually affecting people. Like, get
The
vaccinated.
subtext. You're saying the subtext that the pandemic something serious. So get vaccinated.
This thing is so serious. So how dare they fire the doctors? But don't get vaccinated. No, they should
Maybe this
use
is gonna be a bit of a
clean
tangent.
Rocky Mountain Cool.
This might be a bit of a tangent too, but it's like people are saying like, oh, the vaccines are in it for like the vaccine companies are in it for the money. It's like, okay, so how much does it take to keep a person alive without the vaccine? Like it's orders of magnitude difference for dollars, all the equipment, all the medication, like those meds suck to have.
That is like that is something that we came across all the time, like pre-COVID. That in doing like combating like anti-vaxxers is the fact that a lot of people think that like these vaccine companies are just making a shit ton of money. And the big one then was like measles, right? Like you had a ton of people like refusing to get the measles vaccine, and they were like, well, "It's the pharmaceutical profits." And it's like, have you ever treated encephalopathy, right? Like people who have like water leaking into their brain and like causing brain damage have to have like so much treatment and medication and whatnot that like the costs involved in actually treating someone who has that like outweighs a year's worth of vaccinations just for like one person. You know what I mean?
There's that too, yeah. It's like the R&D to make a vaccine is ridiculous. If you want like looking at the numbers for that alone, that's like there's a reason why we only have a small handful of vaccines that have been effective right now. There's been dozens of other vaccines that have been done for the COVID vaccine programs, like just in the States, just in UK, like just select your country. There's a handful of other vaccines that didn't make the cut and lost whatever companies that made them money.
Yeah. Agreed with all of this. It's all stupid. I will say with white X lights in chat, if you really are an anti-vaxxer, let us know so we can remove you from the chat.
I think they're being facetious for the good to see like that, like sarcastic.
Well, I hope it's sarcastic. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm hoping.
We do have a rule that no anti-vax shit in the chat. So there you go. Consider yourself warned.
My phone died and it's charging across the room, so I will not be able to delete or ban
worries.
annoying people should they show up. I'm just warning
Fair
you now,
enough.
Jody.
Fair enough. They said no worries, so I'll take that as at least an admission that it was sarcasm or a peace offering, and we'll accept that.
Any kind of way. So we have been there for our patients, and we want to continue to be there for our patients. We want to serve our community, but we don't want to do that under the pressures of losing our livelihoods just for not consenting to an experimental injection that does not stop
Experimental again.
transmission,
Drink.
infections, and
Yeah.
hospitalizations.
Okay. Oh, they said it.
I've seen bad reactions. And
sure you did.
I don't think that I should have to suffer those bad reactions for a medical
My arm
trial
got
being
sore.
done
There's
on
a
mass
reaction.
scale.
Yeah, name the symptoms.
Yeah. I've seen bad reactions. I love, like, it saddens me that people go through an education that involves some understanding. Like, my guess is, even to get a PSW, you probably had to take some
Yeah, you
methods
do.
course.
Yeah, there's some medical training to, like, to
No,
basic
I don't even
understanding.
like mean medical. Just like a basic like I know that like most people that I know in like universities or even college that have taken like science oriented fields have to take a lesson in like methods, which teaches you like basics of scientific understanding. You know what I mean? At least
Yeah.
I had to do that when I did psychology in university. We had a methods class which combined both like some aspects of statistics, but mostly just encompassed basic scientific thinking. Like,
Yeah,
what
like
is
the
a
method.
third variable?
What's an R value?
Yeah. And then there was I mean, like, and then the one thing that you learn from that is like your anecdote is completely fucking useless. So it's like, okay, you've seen some things. Good for you. That's not how we do science whatsoever. I'm glad you had an experience. Now let's do a controlled study if we can, please.
Multiple anecdotes do not make data. It's
Yes.
only when you record the data properly that it becomes data.
Yes, Jesus. She saw multiple of the 1 in 50,000 of whatever people that got VITT. She's so unlucky. What is VITT? Is that the vascular thing? Wait for Core 10 to say it, but I'm going to hit play.
Very fair. Very fair. And do you have any final comments or thoughts? Anything you would say perhaps to those in decision-making positions or simply to the viewers?
Oh God, no.
You have to decide what's best for yourself.
Yeah.
There it is.
Informed consent.
Informed consent.
And
Yeah, talk to your
do
doctor,
due
not
diligence on
Dr.
researching
Google.
What you're doing.
Very fair. Well, thank you very much for your time.
I'd like to thank Rebel News too for always coming out.
100%. It's my pleasure to be here.
What?
She wants to thank Rebel News for always coming out. I love this like informed consent bullshit and like you need to make like your own decisions. And it's just like
No. Get your medical care provider to give you the proper recommendations.
That's like somebody working at Taco Bell who's like, before I wash my hands. In fact, I'm not going to wash my hands before I make your taco because I did not have informed consent and I did my own research. And how dare you tell me, force me to wash my hands before I make your taco after I grabbed my penis when we pissed before I made your taco. How dare you force me to make that? I should make my own choices before I prepare your food.
True.
VITT is the new type of blood clot that AstraZeneca and to a lesser extent Johnson & Johnson can cause. Fair.
Vascular thrombosis. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the thrombosis one. The funny thing is they've
Called
moved...
getting VIT.
They...
You got the VIT, you're going to die.
The funny thing is they've moved off
I got
of
the VIT from the
AstraZeneca.
Vax.
They've moved off of AstraZeneca because their main focus now is the myocarditis that comes from or that I think has mostly been tied to Moderna, if I'm not mistaken.
It's been like mostly attributed to younger men for that one.
And
but like it's also a case of like the getting the virus put you a significant higher chance of getting that too. It's like, and any other symptoms that you get from the virus, like
I do. Yeah, that's the one thing I love about it is that if you get the virus, you're at a increased risk of getting myocarditis than if you get the vaccine. So
yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. But then on the flip side, myocarditis goes away. It does not have any long-term effects unless you have like a severe case of it. And most of the vaccine cases are not severe. So most of the people who have it, it'll go away and their lives will be normal.
You're maybe in the hospital for a little bit, but you're not in the ICU really for that kind of stuff. Unless you've got like something else, but like again, those cases are rare. And you're being supervised by doctors for that condition if you so have it. So yeah.
My own research says that washing hands is a waste of time, and I don't like the feel of the glove. All right, 2 cards. You know what's funny, though? Now that you said that, it reminded me of one thing. I can't remember if I brought it up on stream, but in his book, Shakedown, Ezra has a whole chapter dedicated to what he considers are, like, frivolous lawsuits. And one of the cases that he, like, highlights is a woman who refused to wash her hands, in part because, so she worked at McDonald's, and it turns out she developed some skin condition that she like attributed to McDonald's, and then they claimed that like she's lying and making it up or whatever. But so she
something to do with the soaps?
Pardon?
It was to do with the soaps again? I forget.
I think it had to do with like the I can't remember. But like either way, he like sides with McDonald's in this example for firing her because she was like, her argument wasn't even that she wanted to like not wash her hands forever and serve people food. Her argument was like, why don't you give me like other work to do that doesn't involve food prep? Because it was like working here that caused me to have this skin condition kind of thing, right? And Ezra sided with McDonald's then, but it's clearly not siding with the hospitals in removing these people for refusing to get vaccinated, you know?
It's almost like he's conveniently taking workers' side on certain issues he wants to push for certain narrative reasons. I wonder if that's a thing.
Yeah. And when you read the court case for her case, because it was a human rights case, I think, because his book Shakedown is against the Human Rights Tribunal. And I think like her argument of it being like a human rights thing is that she argued they didn't even try to offer her additional work, which is like legally what you're supposed to do. Give like workplace accommodations.
And well, sorry, yes, that's also bringing up another like similarity to with the nurses too. It's like there's nurses that get alternative care or something like that. Like in instances of like say like if there's a with influenza going around, if any nurses who don't have vaccination for the flu, they get pulled on different wards or different jobs or whatever, right? So, but with COVID, it's a bit of a different game for that deal.
We even saw with the policing though. Like I know, like they keep talking about these apparent mass firings that are going to be happening with police, and like I'm all here for that, right? But when we read what the union like put out as like a press release, it specifically said that they're going to try to give them accommodations before they even fire them. So
yeah, it's like it's giving them concession. It's like it's not being so tyrannical. It's not just booting them because it's like no, well, we got this other thing you could do instead, and they're like no.
Yeah. Can't imagine why Levant would be salty about the human rights tribunals. Yeah, because he was brought before when he wrote the book. For those who don't know, just the backstory of that is he was brought to the human rights tribunals because he published the drawings of the Prophet Muhammad, and a person basically said that basically attacked the religion and therefore was like hate speech, basically. And I don't think it ended up like being finished because I feel like the person who brought the case against Ezra eventually dropped it. So it didn't get like resolved in the tribunal. It's not like there was a ruling that came out of it. But that was the reason why he was there. And so he decided to write a book about it. And this is the one thing about how annoying, like we've watched some of Ezra's earlier shit in this program. Around that time, he was also fighting or lobbying with Stephen Harper to pass a bill that blocked Section 13 of the Human Rights Code, and he succeeded in doing so. So he also affected Canadian law, so Ezra can go fuck himself. even further. Yes, Simone, everyone hears you, and they all agree with you that Ezra can go fuck himself. See?
The thing is that we worked in the hot seat of that COVID, and we worked with a shield, with a mask, a gown if we needed to, an N95 mask when they would give them to us, because at first we weren't allowed to wear them. Okay, and that's the truth. And,
yeah, so that's a
now,
legitimate reason to
here
criticize the
we are, 19
government.
months later, when we've already worked through the heat of this, and now they're firing us, suspending us.
Gotcha.
Like, does that seem right? Like, does that seem fair? And if you're...
Yeah, but, like, I want her to, like, follow her own logic. Like, if she refused to wear her mask at the beginning of this thing, when according to her, they were in the heat of it, what if they fired her back then? Would she be, like, okay or not okay with her colleagues refusing to wear masks around her in the heat of it? You know?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna mention too. It's like I kind of wonder how many people were let go because they refused to take this seriously by wearing any PPE at work.
So it's like,
or
okay, like,
wear it properly.
I mean, it's just this assumption that all of a sudden the vaccine is this, like, step too far. And it's like, why?
vaccinated? Why are you worried about me whether I'm vaccinated or not? You're
What
already
the hell?
protected, aren't you? Don't you have a vaccine that's protecting you? Like, I don't. Like, yeah.
Like, if this person really is a nurse, like, what happens in people's brains when it comes to, like, vaccine science that they just don't get it? They, like, refuse to get it. It's very easy. You can still carry a disease. What the vaccine does is it can mitigate your immune response, which also, like, hinders transmission. But COVID just happens to be one of those rare diseases that is just highly transmissible generally. But, like, it lowers the extent to which you need treatment, because it reduces the extent to which this disease affects you, and therefore you don't die and you don't go to the hospital. That's why it doesn't, like, make you 100% perfectly immune from COVID. That's not what the vaccine does. I don't know where you got that impression, nurse, who should understand vaccine science, but, like, maybe you need to go to re-education to up your degree, whatever you got to become a nurse in the first place. At least she believes COVID is real. Yeah, Jesus. But that's the thing. If you were a nurse for this long and you don't understand basic science around vaccines, like, Jesus.
The shot, the jab, whatever you want to call it, whatever makes you feel good.
And now, if I were to play
Anything but
devil's
vaccine.
advocate here, what would you say to the person who's saying, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, the vaccines are perfectly safe and effective, you are simply just, you know, making a stand here for the sake of, you know, your own vanity, or you're being selfish, and really, if you cared, you would just comply. And
like, you're a piece of shit that no one fucking cares about. I wish you just, like, went into it. That would have been amazing. That everyone thinks that you're a loser. Nobody likes you. I'm having a delay on my end. I wonder if it's affecting you in the Discord as well. If you can even hear me.
Having a delay. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. No, it's just I'm watching the OBS output, and I'm now no longer in sync with the video. Something, and then the video here roboted out. So there's, like, a slight delay, I think, is happening.
Oh, weird.
Weird indeed. I don't know, internets. Maybe 5 seconds? Yeah, it's really short.
keep working. What would you say to those people who would just demonize you and cast you aside?
And, you know, there's people out there that are very afraid of this virus, and I understand that they want to protect their loved ones.
Yeah,
But
like
for
the one that's in the
me,
hospital you're standing
I am
out in front
choosing
of?
to trust my body and how it fought COVID
Oh, God, here we
already.
go.
And
Oh,
that
God,
I'm not
natural
being
immunity.
selfish, and that I feel that it's selfish of a nation to want to force me to undergo a medical treatment for
Before
a
you take
virus
care of
that
my
I have
dying
already
grandma?
healed
Like, I'm
from.
sorry.
And I do.
I
have
refuse to believe
natural
she's a
immunity.
nurse.
All right, so for your
I mean, she's wearing the getup, and she says she's already been infected. So I don't know. That could count to it, but like, still, it's like, okay, you got infected already, which means you have some immunity compared to like no immunity. But it's like getting the vaccine makes you more robustly immune, and therefore safer to be around people like my grandma, who is currently at the hospital that you apparently worked at. I hate these people. I hate these people so much.
Yourself, why is it that you're out here today at the protest at the hospital?
Well, first and foremost, I believe that everybody has the choice to choose whatever medical procedure they want done to themselves. I mean, we don't live in Nazi Germany, and
oh my God, there we go.
At least not yet, anyways. I'm also here because my sister's a nurse and two really good friends are nurses, and they've all been walked out of their jobs. So
they've all been essentially placed on unpaid leave and face termination if they don't show proof of vax?
Yeah, and my sister, who was removed, she's actually already, she was out of work for 2 years because she took a flu shot and she was...
bullshit.
She was damaged from that flu shot. She was out of work for 2 years.
Hard
and
bullshit.
It cost her a lot, and they wanted to give her...
Out of work for 2 years over a flu shot.
Flu shot, no, I call hard bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. There are some rare things that can come from a flu vaccine, but I've never heard anyone that has been, like, so damaged by this thing, they've been out for 2 years.
Oh, no, I've heard plenty.
Like,
oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it's always the, like, it's probably something else, and they're wrongly attributing it to the vaccine. Which is often
yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like usually that, yeah, that's usually the case.
Yeah. Previous immunity, COVID damage equals can go either way for a second infection. Yeah, I know, right? My best friend is an unvaccinated nurse.
I was going to say it's something. But yeah, it's like people...
You're cutting out. I'm not sure if you're coming through fully.
Yeah, I was just saying that like people I know that have gotten the vaccine for the flu shot and said like, oh, it hurt me or whatever. It's like you felt symptoms of like your body's having an immune response to the vaccine, which is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. And yes, Hildebeest, we already sort of went over that, which is like we're in favor of social programs. Like have the social programs, and then you wouldn't be in this kind of like compromised situation where you have to choose between vax and like having food on your table. You know what I mean? But of course, I do agree with you, Hildebeest, that they're probably not the people who support those kinds of programs anyway. Because that would be like Nazi Germany, like this guy just said.
Or an exemption for it or anything. So. For this one, so I can understand why she wouldn't want to take this shot, especially since this shot's had some pretty bad track records so far.
Bullshit.
You start questioning
I'll put money to
that when the government is trying to force it on you, what is really going on here? Is it really about the virus anymore? And that is...
If they're trying to force it on you, what is really going on here? I don't know. Maybe we have a virus we need to get under control. Why does it have to jump to some sort of conspiracy theory? It's like, maybe this means the virus is real and we should like actually care about what's going on here. I mean, I think we're almost at 5 million people worldwide dead from this thing in under 2 years. Like maybe that is something worth being concerned about.
Like I remember when like the first year of this, it was like, oh, it doesn't kill as many people as the flu. It's lower deaths than the flu, and like we're not even a year into it. And it's like after a year, it's like, okay, so how many people have died from COVID compared to the flu now? It's like, oh, it's way less by orders of magnitude now. Cool. All right, you lost that argument.
Yeah,
like they've moved on obviously since. Now it's like, oh, the vaccine's killing people now instead of the unvac like the.
No, I mean they never talk about that at all anymore. Even though COVID has surpassed most things in terms of number one killers of people.
Yeah, just regular deaths or stuff. Like even like you can add in like the factors like COVID. You could even add in the fact of like COVID affecting other deaths, like other treatment, like because people have been pushed off cancer and like treatments for cancer to like diagnose have been put off. So that's going to have a death toll too. So.
Yep. I mean, it caused all kinds of like extenuating circumstances that even like reduce death in terms of like lockdowns causing like fewer car accidents. But even like, I think there has been some evidence of drug overdoses increasing, right? So,
yeah.
And so it's like it's all over the board. But like even if you just look at the deaths due to COVID itself, like it's one of the top killers. Like even if we like whether we're
it's
dealing with
pushed
it appropriately or
oh.
not, you know.
Like if you just want to look at the states, it's pushed out like cardiac deaths.
Yeah. Yep.
It's my personal view. It becomes
It's my
hard
personal view.
to see that if we're in such a crisis with the pandemic, how they're letting all of us
she wants to say
nurses and
plandemic.
healthcare workers go when there's already a known and documented shortage.
This isn't reversible. If you make this mistake and you take this and this injures you, they can't take it out of your body. Everything else that we do, we can
oh my
sort
God.
of alleviate the mistake.
You can't, once the vaccine is in, you can't take it out. It's in there forever.
There's no sort of anti-vaccine vaccine.
If I'm gonna make a bet, this guy probably thinks that once the vaccine's in you, it's in you for life, or it's done irreparable damage.
I don't even think there's anything.
You become the vaccine.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything in the vaccine that like bioaccumulates. Like even the quote unquote mercury that people thought were in vaccines, when it's like a different kind of mercury than the mercury that poisons you, it doesn't bioaccumulate. You piss it out. So
yeah, that stuff gets flushed out pretty quick. Like it's in you for the thimerosal one. Like it's not even in this vaccine either. That's the other thing too. It's like all these other like past vaccine myths have been like attributed to this one. Like my favorite was there's fetal cells in this vaccine. It's like nope.
Like even like there's an extent to which like once your T cells have that memory, like the memory wanes over time. So even that is kind of wrong with what he's saying. But like there is an extent to which, yes, like the effects could be long laying in terms of your immune cells having a certain kind of information, right? But
that's what you want.
It's what you want, and like you can get it from actually getting the disease, or like your T cells are being manipulated every time you take a fucking breath. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Every time you inhale particles from the outside world, you're affecting shit. That's like, you don't see him walking around being like, don't breathe. You could be breathing in pathogens at every moment and changing your internal body forever. Like, yeah, we're an ecosystem. Things can be affected. Like, only eat certain foods so that your body remains consistent at all times.
That's
It's just so silly. These people have such scientific illiteracy.
We can make up for it. We can change it. This, you can't change it. Once it's in your body, you're done.
Yeah.
But it's not just
You're
that.
done.
It's where does this lead to then, right? So how many more booster shots are we going to need
You're dead,
to
man.
take
You're dead.
to keep our jobs? What else are we going
All of
to
them
do to keep our jobs? Right now they have...
Well, even with the booster shots, it's like it's the funniest like scare tactic where it's like, what do you think the flu shot is every year? What, like, are
tetanus
people
shot.
just dropping dead from all? Well, like the tetanus shot, the booster is at least like spaced out, right?
Oh yeah,
The
5
flu
years, but
yeah.
oh no.
I mean, the flu shot is like once every year, so it's like we're already used to this. It's not like it's a foreign concept that you're going to need a booster shot.
That's the other thing too. Is like the flu shot's not even mandatory, but like it should be to like if you understand how it works, like how bad the flu is. Like if you
masking during flu season should be mandatory now, in my opinion.
If you've ever gotten the flu, it's like it's not something to laugh at. Like even if you survive it, it's not fun.
Yeah. I will say for anyone, like this is an important thing to just tell people generally, but like a lot of people think that they've had the flu before, but probably haven't. And so a reason why I think a lot of people undervalue the extent to which flu devastates you is because everyone's been sick every once in a while and been like, I got the flu. But you never went to a doctor, you never got a test, and it was never determined that you actually had the influenza virus.
Yeah.
You probably had just a mild cold. But
yeah, it's like you've never been clinically diagnosed. Yeah.
So that's why you get your flu shot, so that you don't get knocked on your ass, you know? They made the flu shot free here this year. Flu shot's always been free.
America?
No, I think 2 Cars is in BC.
2 Cars. Oh, okay. Yeah, it should have been free. Like, gotten that at like every pharmacy I've been
Yeah.
to.
You could just walk into like a Shoppers Drug Mart here and get it for free, no matter what. Or like we go to our family doctors, but we're probably going to go to Shoppers because I don't know how it's working.
Convenience,
Either way.
Well, we know what's going on right now in Australia,
And it's
which is
flu
crazy,
season's
but
coming soon,
you
so
have a
get your
social
flu
credit
shot.
system going on in China, in which if you don't be a good citizen
throw out every country
and go
name.
along with the party line, you're not allowed to go into certain places. You can't do shopping. You can't even work. So this is all about controlling our behavior and getting us to do things that we don't want to do. And when we actually,
Oh no!
I feel like I agree that the social credit system in China is not good because some of the things that that the policy is implemented to deal with are like more etiquette oriented things. And like I can understand why that might be like icky having a system like that. But like to a certain extent, like
we kind of got that already in a way. Like the merit system is on driver's license. That's kind of a similar system to a certain extent.
Sure, but like it's a little worse. I can say that there are parts of the social credit system that I do think are bad and not great, right? Like especially if like someone is just like disagreeable, are we going to prevent them from using like transit? Like there's aspects of the system that I'm not I'm not happy with. But like it is amazing how much like what he's saying here is like, could you imagine like the way he's framing it fits with the vaccine passport narrative, which is like, can you imagine like certain people are allowed into some things versus like the other? But it's like no shirts, no shoes, no service, no.
Yeah, like we've done something like that to a certain extent for ages. Whether like, yes, on paper it is discriminatory, but there's also like reasons to have certain rules not to have, like the no shirt, no shoes is kind of like against homelessness for like homeless people for that end. But
It's
like
not
it's
great.
also
It's just like what I'm getting at is it's been tolerated. You know what I mean? Like
it's been a norm.
Yeah. Or even like the idea of like health mandates generally. Like you're being told what to do.
Yeah.
You can either like have your job or not have your job based on following the rules. Traffic laws. Like it's just like I mean, we just watched John Boyle the other day, who was just like against traffic laws.
Yeah, jeez. Okay, I could drive drunk anytime I want. Screw that seatbelt. All right, speed limit. To damn with it. To hell with it.
We live in trying times.
allow them to do that, we lose no matter what. So these are the people here. It's unfortunate that we don't have more doctors and nurses walking out. I know that there's more doctors and nurses that did
the
not
silent
want to take
majority.
the shot.
I wonder why. Yeah.
But you know what? It's always a small handful.
This is not coercion.
That stands up and does the right thing. And we're hoping we can change this. Hopefully we can turn this around. But it's
before all you guys die off from the virus.
I love this idea that it's always a small handful of people that stand up. Like that can then be applied to every fucking protest ever throughout. Like,
oh my god, yeah.
Like you. I doubt he would apply this logic to like Black Lives Matter or like other people. You know what I mean?
I mean, the thing that I want to kind of focus on with it is he's talking about turning it around. What does turning it around mean when you believe that once it's in your blood, it's in there forever, and the vast majority of people have already gotten the vaccine? What does that?
Yeah.
What does turning it around entail?
Killing off people who got vaccinated?
Yeah, like what
are you supposed to do if you got vaccinated and quote unquote like it's done for you? You're dead or whatever. Like whatever he thinks about the vaccinated. Like what the hell?
Charitably, I want to say turning it around for.
You...
Sorry, finish your thought.
A vaccine that makes you more able to get COVID.
Amazing.
To reverse the previous one's effects.
Charitably, I think he just
those people become the real anti-vaxxers.
Yeah, you need a vaccine for the vaccine. Wait a minute, wait.
I think he means just remove the passport policies. I think is what he's saying.
Fine.
But he also thinks we're currently in Nazi Germany, so I don't know.
It's always Nazi Germany with these types. It's like the Nuremberg
Nazis
thing.
In
it's
China.
Like, that's yeah. Oh my god, yeah. Would pick a side.
Yeah.
just say authoritarian for Christ's sake. It's easier.
No, it's Nazi communists.
Those damn Nazi cammies.
Figured out what they put in the vaccine. It's a hive mind that makes the vaccinated hostile to the unvaccinated. Tragic.
I'm standing here, protesters behind me, consisting largely of nurses and other frontline healthcare workers, the people who we have praised throughout this pandemic as frontline
This guy looks like a
healthcare
stoner
heroes
surfer, you know?
who've dedicated and sacrificed so much time and effort to combat this pandemic and take care of those who have become severely ill from the virus. The same politicians and bailout media who have praised these people are now demonizing them, casting them aside, at least those who have chosen not to get the vaccine for many of the reasons you just heard. But these very same people now have their lives, their livelihoods, their careers being destroyed by these vaccine mandates, by the removal of their ability to make...
Like, their lives are destroyed? What about all the people who have died from this virus? What about the fact that I can't go see my grandma as she dies? What about me? What about all the other people who can't see their relatives in similar circumstances because assholes refuse to get vaccinated? Like, they make it about, like they sound so noble that they're standing up for these people who've had their lives destroyed. Meanwhile, their actions are destroying and ruining and adding some negativity to the lives of others. Like fucking, like, do the calculus. Who's more selfish here? The people who are asking for policies that prevent other people from getting sick, or the people who refuse to get vaccinated and are willing to infect other people? Like, once you put it in that, like, light, I don't know. One of these sides seems like more worse than the other, and it's the people who want to infect others with a disease.
Just want freedom.
Yeah. Freedom! I mean, that, like, it's a buzzword for their own selfish desires, is what it is.
It's not even a good one.
No. I want to be infected with a disease! If that's really what that Mel Gibson character was yelling about in Braveheart. The other side infects your mind with authoritarianism. I love you too, guys.
choice for themselves. For Rebel News in Cambridge, Ontario, I'm Dakota Christensen.
Now I'm gonna leave this protest and catch some waves, bro.
Hello, my rebels. Hello, my rebels. I'm a good boy. I'm a weirdo.